Welcome back. Well, now we're to the last segment on current and long-term industry trends. As I've been saying all along here, the electric industry is in a great deal of change, turmoil, reinventing, whatever you want to call it, but there's a lot of changes going on. And this transformation will take decades to play out. The old sleepy industry is gone. And while the debate rages over how electricity should be produced, whether baseload, fossil fuels, renewables, we are well down the road towards further electrification. So a lot of things, the electric cars, the Internet of Things, how we handle that in our homes and things like that. More electrification. We still need electricity and will continue to need more and more of it. So let's talk a bit about the industry trends. That electrification that I just talked about, I jumped ahead a little bit on this slide. Seriously, electrification, we're finding more and more uses for electricity, and that will only continue to grow. That'll grow energy demand. And renewable generation, I mean, we are well down the path of renewable generation. Solar, wind, granted, there's a lot of subsidies when it comes to renewable generation that make it affordable. Take away those subsidies and it really is not very cost effective yet, but we are moving in that direction as the cost of solar panels drops and people put renewable energy generation on their homes and businesses and so on. So renewable generation has to be part of any power supply mix conversation. Also, integrating distributed energy resources into power supply planning goes right along with that. So where in the past we looked at solar generation for homeowners and how that impacted our system, we really didn't pay attention to it. Now we need to pay attention to it because it's a growing number and a growing force in the industry. And then grid resiliency and cybersecurity, the security of the grid and the resiliency of the grid against storms and so on. The grid is getting old. And it's tough to make the multi-billion-dollar investments that are needed in grid resiliency, and also cybersecurity is a major concern as well. So those types of funding and costs that it takes to upgrade the grid will be paid by customers, and also there's lots of grant programs out there now over the next few years. When those go away, the grid rebuild is estimated to cost in the trillions of dollars. So that trend will continue over the coming decades. So upgrading the transmission system, workforce management, we talked about at length in a couple of sections ago. You're well familiar with that as far as the aging workforce. How do we train people, retain people, and so on. Battery technology. Remember the duck curve? Well, the duck curve will flatten out with battery technology where we can get rid of some of those duplicative resources, put them into the transmission grid. Would that be a good use for that? But in any case, you cannot have a strong renewable policy without the storage that battery gives you to use generation that is done during the day, at night. Systems upgrades, a lot of old systems out there in utilities and co-ops, a lot of money being spent on new systems and so on. The Internet of Things and data analytics kind of goes with that, so the new systems can help us with the Internet of Things. And what I mean by that is devices in your house that can help you manage electricity. The lights, your furnace, air conditioning, time of day that you use electricity and so on. The Alexa, Siri, all of that, Google HomePod, all of that fits into the Internet of Things. And the data that you can get from that can help make for better cost of service studies, better customer service, and so on. And then finally, blockchain. And you say, well, what does blockchain have to do with this? Well, blockchain is being used with distributed resources in how they are paid for and things like that. And you'll see a lot more about blockchain. We don't need to go into it in a lot of detail here, but it is a trend that will be growing over the coming decades as well. You might remember this graph from one of our first segments today on the power industry of the future. Again, we have our traditional base load over here, our traditional facilities. Now we're moving to more renewables. We're waiting for this grid scale battery storage to get it going so that we can store some of that and use it. And the utility of the future, again, will be microgrids, traditional customers, and also our need to construct facilities for electric vehicles. That'll all be part of that, all mixes into these trends that we had discussed. I'd like you to leave with these key takeaways. First off, based on our discussion, you know now that the electric industry is undergoing a great transformation, huge change in the business, and how we manage that change is vital to our society and our economic viability. And while the debate rages over how we should produce electricity, the need for electricity will continue to grow. It'll be a huge factor. And on the workforce side, there's a big demand for employees in the industry with deeper technical backgrounds, so we need to properly manage that process. And electric policy, regulation, and rate recovery will drive utility and co-op investments in the future. So with that, we're just about to the end of the prepared materials. The next thing you're going to do is take a quiz. And then we have just a minute or two left together, and then you'll get a class completion certificate. And then you can kick back, have your favorite snack, pop a cold beverage, and so on. You will be an expert in the electric industry. So thanks a lot. Please take that quiz and then go on to the next segment, and I'll see you to wrap it up in just a couple of minutes. Thanks. Bye.